you're in a toxic relationship, or maybe it's time for you to break it up. We're going to talk about that and more here on this full-length edition of The Praised and Debaucherous. And good evening, I'm King of Podcasts. Thanks for listening in. I had the midterm elections thing. I was watching that, and I was watching returns, and everything went late. I got caught up on that and a few other things, so I was like, I'm not going to get to the show. So the full-length edition did not happen last week, but I still had the normal shows on Monday and Friday for you, but either which way. Plus, I couldn't really find anything to talk about, even if I wanted to go ahead and do a makeup like on Monday or Wednesday. There was just not much going on. So I chose to hold off, but I think this week's a good show because it's an important subject. And we talk about certain things that are coming on here when it comes to the sugar daddy culture. That was actually a show that was very well responded to. And tonight we're going to talk about toxic relationships, because the idea is that if you are in a bad relationship or not, and especially during the holidays, when you're dealing with people and you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or a loved one, husband, wife, whatever, fiance, that things are just not going good and you got to go through the holidays and suffer through it, that some people will just say, you know what, maybe the things will get better because we'll go through the holidays and Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and things will be better and, we'll have fun with the kids, and all this thought of like, well, let's just wait and see what happens. Let's do a wait and see approach. And you know what? No. Can't do that because it's a big old mess. And so what happens is you go through this and you think, well, let's just keep trying. I remember there was a girl that was a bar I used to go to, karaoke bar. And I remember she went through a thing where her relationship was very toxic. Now, first of all, she's very wound up. Like when you listen to her and you talk to her, she's like she talks like a mile a minute, and she's a bit hyper and she's bubbly and she's fun and she's like all over the place. She's like bouncing off the walls. Very pretty girl. And I remember she was much more reserved and, was just like every day, kind of almost like a tomboy. But then when she's with this guy she was with for a couple of years, I think she was with him for 5 years at that point. Like I used to go to this bar quite a bit. And I would meet her with her friends. And I was like, there was a guy she was with and she says, I'm going to give him an ultimatum New Year's Eve. He doesn't marry me, it's over. Okay, but if he hasn't done anything by now, and you're going to put the ultimatum of the marriage over his head like a bullet to his head, he's not going to do it. But the thing was that she, because of this whole thought, like she wanted to get married and she put all this time in, she thought that she needed to go ahead and do that to him to kind of make him commit. Like put that final commitment together. Maybe he never wanted to get married. Maybe he didn't want to have kids. Maybe that conversation never happened. But I see her and she's she's sexier looking. She's dressed because she's out with a guy. Like she's out with her friends, but it's like, it's how she would look for her guy. And, it's just I don't know. It was something where you could just tell when she's with somebody that, she's with someone. It doesn't make a difference if anyone else wants to hit on her or whatnot, but she looked different. Her hair was longer. It was like she was trying her hardest to hold on to this guy to please him, to make him happy. And then she says that line, an ultimatum New Year's. And this was around holidays. So we're talking like right before Thanksgiving. And she said that. So you're going to go to the holidays. You're thinking you're going to get this thing. Like, this is my Christmas present. He's going to marry me. No. And she never did. That never happened. They broke up. I don't know if it's because of the ultimatum or not, but I think something happened where it just stopped. And I'll tell you, when you're in cuffing season and you're saying to yourself, okay, you're already in the relationship with her or him, and now you got Christmas and New Year's and all this stuff, and you're like, you've already told people, hey, I'm going to bring this person over. Did you get to the point you say, oh, you know what? I don't know if I should be with this person or not. Do I want to bring this person over for Thanksgiving dinner? Do I want to have this person over while we're unwrapping presents at Christmas? Around my siblings, my nieces, nephews, and all that stuff? Do I want that? And do I want to have them around for New Year's? Is he the one I want to kiss when the ball drops? This is that part of the holidays I can't stand. Because of the fact that The relationship part, if you are in a good relationship and you have things going well, then yeah, holidays are fun. If you got kids, do you love them? Yeah, holidays are fun. But it's like you got to have the family component. You got to have that love component. If you don't have that, like what about those that, they don't have a good family, or dysfunctional family, or, they don't have anybody in their lives. Like, I'm saying that's tough on people. Like holidays can be really tough on some people. And some people just take it too far. Like there's some people I've seen where, I remember with this girl, I told the story about a girl that I went out with in drug recovery. And it was funny. I had a friend, there was a guy that I had talked to, and he was in recovery as well. And I told the story about this girl without telling her name. And he was like, okay, so she said she was in there for 4 years. She was lying to you. She was only there for 4 months. Really? Yeah, because she's acting like that. She's only been there for a little while. She wants to get herself out of there. She's young. She wants to find her way out of there. So she looked at me as like a way out. Okay. And I remember I told you the story about the couple that lived right next to them in the recovery complex, a sober living complex. It was a couple, a husband and wife, that were recovering together, and they had kids. And like more than a month ahead, they're celebrating Christmas. They're like Christmased out, like the pajamas, the tree, the presents, and like everything Christmassy. And I know some people really live that. Like you got to have that month of like, when everything else feels bad, Christmas is going to just cheer people up. And they need to have the full power of the spirit of Christmas to make that happen. It sucks, man. It really does. So let me get into the story about breaking up. So breakups are always difficult. There are do's and don'ts on doing it right. And Robert Taibbi tells us about this now. Breakups are often difficult because even if they seem to be mutual, and you have to understand that the key to breakups is that it's owning your problem rather than blaming the other person, the partner. Focus on the overall landscape rather than getting lost in details. And then more importantly, be compassionate but clear about next steps, context, and the state of the relationship. Give the other person room to say what they want. Well, this professor is talking about an amicable breakup. How many do we have of those? It's not often, but they think this was a thing you have to do. So if you're going to do it, if you're going to break up, you plan it out in advance. No impulsive confessions or rants. No dropping the bomb in the car. You want to be deliberate. And see, one thing I've noticed with some girls that I've talked to, that if they're able to go ahead and have that drag out conversation, like we got to have that heart to heart talk. And she's able to, even if the guy doesn't respond well or whatever it is, or the girl doesn't respond well, if you get that chance to actually go ahead and say everything that needs to be said, like basically that you wanted to say to them, whether it's to hold on to them and you're not fighting with them, you're actually trying to reconcile, you're trying to mend the fence, and you'll do whatever it takes to mend the fence. You should be able to have that chance to do that. Mend the fence. Say whatever you got to say to try to keep things together. If you feel like you really enjoyed time with someone, and even though it's only about a tenth of the time you were together, it was actually really good, and the rest of it was just drama, with a couple of good things in between, then what you're going to do is you try to go ahead and bring up the good times, how things were at the beginning, and pour your heart out to that person and see if they're going to take. Because you know what? You'll put everything out there. It's all in the open. You say it out loud, and that's it. The other thing they say is that map out what you want to say, own your problems, and then be honest about life of the next steps. So that's why I say, like, make sure you leave it all out on the floor. When you're trying to go ahead and mend, or you're trying to go through a breakup and you want to have that chance to try to reconcile. Can we make this happen? Can we try to get one more chance out of this? Because some girls want to do that, and some guys want to do that. And when you exhaust that chance, you put it all out there, and that person's still going to leave, then it's done. The emotional hold they have on you is broken free. So you never think about it again. You just go. And that's it. Done. Not a bad way to look at it, as a matter of fact. And so you also should anticipate their reaction, they say. Knowing them, surprised and emotional, not surprised, but still emotional. Knowing what you might expect helps you with the next steps. So I always say, like, if you're able to do it, all of it, just let it all out on the table. Everything. Nothing held back. So you never feel like you have a reason to try to, have another conversation. It's done, severed. When that person's done, it's out, and then you just let it go. Also, medium timing in place. No text, no voicemail, no ghosting. You want to do it in person, in front. You also want to make sure you're not doing it where you're doing it at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night, drinking, worn out, stressed, tired. Don't do it at dinner at a fancy restaurant because it's a manipulative setup. You want to just use a session to disclose and give a counselor a heads up. They're saying, if you're going to go professional about it, drop the axe, they say. Yes. If you're clear about what you want to say, you have some idea of what might unfold, great. Remain calm and be compassionate with someone who may be hurting. This may not be about you. Don't beat around the bush with small talk. Stop and listen. Talk about practical manners in a separate conversation. And after this, you mop it up. But the partner, I always say if you can, rejection should be tough, and then you just break off and go. So, and I think that's a good way to go about it. Now, the other thing I was going to take for the story was for the Good Men Project. YourTango.com put a story about the truth why we're so addicted to healthy relationships. So they're saying that, we have the expression, never judge a book by its cover, because what we see from another person's experience is not the whole story. Our envy about somebody's youth or wealth or beauty or relationship is more of a reflection about our own personal dissatisfaction than an accurate inventory of how their life is going. Now, we also see how there's things we don't do that are not good for us anyway. Junk food, watching too much TV, slacking off on exercise. So, when you're not taking care of yourself, it can cause other problems that get spilled into the other. More robust part of our lives. So, while most of us know the basic fundamentals of experiencing sound physical and financial well-being, many of us do not live our lives within these parameters, and regardless of the stress of the consequences of not doing something may bring. So that's the thing. They say that too many of us indulge in toxic relationships because not only is the very idea the effort it would take to extricate from them a tiring concept, the truth is often these connections become the junk food of our souls. We know they are bad for us, but they have convinced ourselves that healthier options are not as satisfying. I like that. Well said. We're going to keep the show short tonight. That's it. That's your full-length edition. If I had more time, I would do it, but I wanted to make sure I got a show in tonight. Here we go. Thanks for listening in. Catching the show as you always do. And you know what? It's time to break up those toxic relationships. Don't do it at some other time. Do it now. If it's ready to go, it's ready to go. So you can go off and be depraved and debaucherous.